Why don't we get started? I'll do my best. I know, like most other people, I start off strong and my volume goes down, so just wave or something if folks can't hear me. We do have one microphone set up for folks who are presenting, but otherwise we're going to do the best that we can. So, good afternoon. This is a workshop in case number 25-1094, investigation to update and improve energy efficiency utility and renewable energy standard Tier 3 programs. My name is Ed McNamara. I'm chair of the Public Utility Commission.
Margaret Cheney, Commissioner.
Riley Allen, Commissioner.
Deirdre Morris, Hearing Officer.
Elizabeth Schilling, I'm a Hearing Officer.
Jacob Davis, also a Hearing Officer.
Tom Miller, Policy Director. Jake Merritt, Hearing Officer.
Thanks. We might have a few other folks scattered around the room hiding as well. So the purpose of today is to the overall purpose of the investigation, it's giving us a time to reflect. The energy efficiency utilities have been in place since 2000, so about 25 years. Res Tier 3 has been in place, well, I think it was Act 45 was passed in 2015, became effective in 2017. So we have almost 10 years of implementation of Tier 3. And then, of course, we have weatherization assistance providers, community action agencies that have been in place for longer than either of those two entities as well. And so what we want to talk about is really the coordination. One of the things when we went through the clean heat standard and developed the report, talking to folks, one of the things that we heard fairly regularly was there's a lot of programs out there, and sometimes sometimes you're actually working through 4 different entities for somewhat common services. So what we want to do is to figure out, are there ways to potentially streamline some of these offerings, and primarily thinking about customers with low income who don't necessarily have the time, the bandwidth to navigate lots of different programs with different providers. While we're having that discussion, though, it's also important just to sort of I guess I would call it a tune-up of, is there anything big that we're missing on the EEU or Tier 3 front? Are there ways to improve those after 25 years and 10 years of implementation? So this is more of a sort of fact-finding investigations early on, really looking at some different aspects. It's possible that this will turn into different individual cases, looking at specific issues that we might need to resolve. The PUC, Public Utility Commission, we have a fair amount of discretion over Tier 3 and the energy efficiency utilities. There's also, of course, potential for legislative changes that we obviously cannot do, that the group or some various members of the folks here might actually propose to the legislature. But early on, I'd like us to focus on what we can do here through the PUC process. And with that, I'm going to stop for a minute and turn it over to Elizabeth.
Well, thanks, Ed. That was a great introduction. Thanks all for being flexible and switching rooms so quickly today. We realized there was going to be a large group of folks, and our hearing room probably wouldn't accommodate everyone comfortably. So thanks for being flexible. And today, this room is set up as though it's a committee hearing. We'd like it to be less formal than that. Folks are going to give some presentations when you come up because it's set up for recording. We'll have people come to a podium to do presentations. But then after that, when we get into the questions and discussion, I encourage people to pull chairs closer so we can hear one another. And I also wanted to note there, are several presentations today. I hope we have enough time for everyone. If you're providing a lot of background information, you can go through maybe some of that more quickly and really focus in on the aspect of coordination between the community action agencies, the energy efficiency utilities, and the distribution utilities. That's what we're most interested in today, but we understand if folks want to give a little bit of background since this is the first workshop in this investigation. So I think that's all I wanted to cover.
Sorry, just one more thing. We are recording this through Teams, and there will be a link available through EPUC as well, but The main reason I'm raising that is when folks are talking, please use your Shakespearean voice, really project, do your best. I know it can be difficult in a large group, but again, we have the presenter set up so that the volume there will be fine, but for other folks, please feel free to shout.
And Jacob has all of the PowerPoint presentations on his computer and can scroll through them. That might be the easiest. The IT setup, obviously, we were just figuring out that on the fly this morning. But he has all of them and so can scroll through slides as needed. Also, I think all the presentations are on EEUs. So with that, I think we're going to hear from the community action agencies first, right?
Would you mind grabbing this from me? And can go through the slides on there. Just the those two will go, and I'm going to go to your presentation now. Dangerous.
Only if you walk away with it.
More than once, I guarantee that I will hit the wrong way. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dwight DeCoster. I am the Director of CVOEO, Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunities, Community Action Agency. I represent the three other community actions that are part of our network: ROC, Capstone, NITO, and SEPCA. And NITO is not a CAP; they are a training organization. And 3E Thermal is under Capstone's umbrella, and they do all of the 5+ unit buildings that we have. So they're doing the multifamilies. The rest of us do 4 and below. You may hear us called WAPs. You may hear us called agencies, local WAP, subgrantees, or subrecipients. Any of those we answer to. And just kind of a community action thing. When I started with CVOEO 10 years ago, we were under 150 employees. Now we're over 300. So we continue to take on more and more roles. Thankfully, I have just the weatherization. So a little background. I did not realize it until I was putting this slide together that next year will be our 50th anniversary. Jeff, we need to do something. And we were originally created as an anti-poverty program. We were there to reduce our clientele, our clients' energy bills so that they would have more money to pay for the basics that they mentioned. We mentioned survival mode, and that's where most of our clients are. And giving them back 30% of their energy budget on average helps with those sort of things. Reduce the thermal energy load and reduce poverty. Now I say that we've been doing carbon reduction since before it was cool. We're still an anti-poverty program. We have many partnerships that I will go over that have taken us into the other areas as well. Our Office of Economic Opportunity under DHS is our primary funder. All of our funding, the majority of our funding rolls through Jeff and his staff, Jeff Wilcox. The Home Weatherization Assistance State Funds and the Department of Energy Weatherization Funds who come through them. But you'll see that there's always other funds.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes.
Jeff Wilcox is with the Office of
Economic
Opportunity at AHS. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Multiple iterations of other funding over the 49 years has rolled through our office. I call it the president's money. Seemingly every president gives us something, sometimes 2 or 3 times, and each of those fundings comes with different funding levels, eligibility levels, and rules. So, currently, we employ over 150 staff across all of the program, across the state, across all 5 subgrantees.
Can I ask, is that the weatherization folks specifically?
Yes, that is specifically the folks that are under the community actions and NITO. As I said before, we have lots of partnerships other than the Office of Economic Opportunity, the Energy Efficiency Utilities, Efficiency Vermont. We are all of the providers have an agreement and partnership with EVT to the very first step in our process, and I'll go over that later, is that we're working on the electrical load through partnership with them, as well as Burlington Electric in my territory. Very similar program. And that's an add-on to we consider an add-on to our regular weatherization program. Every home that we see gets that service. So there's also, for those homes that are eligible but are not currently receiving our service, there's a targeted high use program, which is run through Efficiency Vermont. And they send us leads, and we do those outside of the regular clients that we see at Weatherization. They will get very similar service, and we at Weatherization often turn those THU clients into Weatherization clients. We get them to apply, and then we move forward with weatherizing the rest of the home at a very high percentage rate of turning those clients into. So Burlington Electric Department also is a partner of ours in the Burlington area office. And that's a very similar program to the LEAP program. Vermont Gas is also, we just signed a new letter of agreement with Vermont Gas, where they are funding up to 50% of weatherization done in the house. We also have some home repair money that has come through Vermont Gas. And what I'm very excited about is fuel switching. We can often switch from the oil and propane, which are very expensive, into regulated Vermont gas, or natural gas, which is a economic advantage for our clients. So we're actually working on the first one of those right now, and it happens to be our Voices Against Violence shelter in St. Albans for CDO that we run that shelter. So they will be switching from propane, oil, and natural gas to simply natural gas all in the same building. And then there's the Low Income Heating Assistance Program, or LIHEAP, which there's been a lot in the news about LIHEAP this year. It's an emergency heating system grant program, as well as a crisis fuel. CBO proper runs the crisis fuel, where if folks run out of fuel and they don't have the funding, they can get some assistance there. We, on our end, the CBO proper, vets the clients, make sure they're eligible, and then they send them over to our in the field technicians, auditors, and coaches who are educated and can go into the home, and they repair or replace heating systems when in the middle of the winter when clients have no heat. So very important, as I say, without LIHEAP, Vermonters will not make it through the winter. Some of the funding sources that we have, both current and future, is obviously the Home Weatherization Assistance Program. It's state of Vermont funded. You see it on your heating bill. There's a little charge down the bottom of every bill that you're paying for our services. And Vermont is very lucky in that aspect, as very few of the other states have that. Many of them rely on either utility money or DOE only, Department of Energy funds. So we're very lucky to have that, and we can do a much better job of what we do. Department of Energy, that was the original funding. It's been there for the 49 years. Their staff has been reduced significantly this year. I don't know the exact numbers right now, but I think it's like their 80% staff has been reduced at the federal level, so a bit of a challenge for them. The ARPA funds, which we are just in the last stages of finishing up, we have until March to finish those funds, and that will be the last of the ARPA. Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, or I still call it sometimes BILL. Federal, we are about, I'd say, probably midway through that. Then the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, we think that's going to start rolling to us in January. Again, I mentioned that's each of these comes with their own challenges and different rules. That one is based on, we get a certain job cost average based on our predicted energy modeling, and it's different for every level, which I don't know how we haven't figured that one out yet. I don't know if the other four have, but it's going to be quite challenging. And we should start to see these funds, Jeff has said, the Office of Economic Opportunity has said sometime around January. So hopefully, as ARPA runs out, that one will start to roll. The spending and unit count for the last 5 years, as you can see from PY21, that was a 2-year. There was a little pandemic in the middle of that year that caused us to be out of the field for a while. And in agreement with the providers, OEO said that we would make that a 2-year. I can't remember exactly how long we were out of the field for, 3 or 4 months, but anyway. In our average, we did 1,700 units across the state, and our average allowable cost per unit was 90. Our average, not our allowable cost per unit, but our average spent per job was $9,500. If you flash forward to PY25, we spent almost twice as much money in that year as we did in the years of COVID. We did 1,306 units, and our average costs were almost $14,500 per unit. Huge upswing in materials and other things that we need. So it has become much more expensive to.
Mr. DeCosta, I have some questions, but I don't know if I should wait till the end, or
I can do it whenever you'd like.
It does relate to this. I see that there's a significant kind of increase in the cost per unit over time, starting at 9,500, rising to something approaching 15,000. Can you just talk through what the cost pressures are there and why it's rising? Were the earlier projects easier to get to, or what's the difference?
Sir, we have seen significant costs in basic materials that we use. For instance, cellulose insulation, which is each of us probably uses a tractor trailer load or two a month of cellulose insulation. Pre-COVID, it was about $6 a bag. $6.25 was the last I remember before. We are now paying almost $11 a bag in 5 years. Wages have gone up significantly. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but hiring since COVID has become absolutely brutal. I, as a director, spend about 50% of my time trying to hire new employees. I'm in the Burlington area. There's a lot of big construction companies there striving for the same folks. We instituted called the prevailing wage into our plans. Right now, I think it's around $22.98 an hour, which pre-COVID I was paying $18 an hour, and plus 42.5% fringe on top of that. Those are the mandated wages from the Office of Economic Opportunity.
I just have a couple of more questions, if I could. The spending levels vary considerably by year. Most recent year was almost 22 million. Is the number of units you service really just a function of the available monies, or is there some sort of prioritization that?
There is a funding formula that funds all five aid community action, WAPs, subgrantees. That is based on population size and density per service area. Mine is, I have Franklin, Grand Isle, Addison, and Chittenden counties. So I go from Canadian border all the way to Orwell and everything to the west of the Green Mountains. And the other 5 are, spread around the Four Corners and the Central. We have been asked to ramp up as quickly as we can, and that's what we're trying to do, because obviously, I think the number is 76,000 homes that need to be weatherized, and we're at 1,300. So
is that 76,000 in total, or?
It's a number that I've heard many times, somewhere between 72 and 76,000 are the number of homes in Vermont that need to be weatherized or have not been weatherized yet. We're doing 1,300 a year, low income, which is a substantial number for the number of homes that are being, a substantial percentage of the homes that are being weatherized. It's just not a very big number when you compare it to 72 or 76,000, 75,000.
Is that a function of who's applied, or is that a function of the available budget, or is it a function of marketing and other factors?
It's mostly the available budget and the available staff. Like I said, staffing is a huge challenge, and we just can't find the folks that want to do some of the dirtiest, filthiest, but most rewarding, heartfelt work that there is out there. So, yeah, I was doing good. Monday, I lost 3. So, So yes, did you have one?
No, I'm good.
I have a quick question, and I'm saying quick because I know there's a lot to cover today. Maybe you can have a quick answer. I want to go back to the federal monies.
Mhm.
And you mentioned LIHEAP. We all know that the staffers that have been dispersing the money have all been cut. You mentioned 80% reduction in DOE staffing. So first, do you have any perspective from the inside of how dire that is this winter, and proportionally what that's going to do to your budget? That's my first question. Then I have one more.
I don't. I'm hoping for a continuing resolution because that would give us status quo and we would not lose LIHEAP. I'm very concerned, but I don't tend to understand what's going on in the admin right now.
And then the other funds you mentioned, ARPA, that's going away. IIJA, that's a little further out, but it's going away. And then IRA is coming in January. How do those balance out in terms of amount of money available? Will the IRA money essentially take the place of what was available or not?
We've been told to plan for a flat budget, and we were flat budgeted this year, and so.
Sorry, excuse me, one quick follow-up on the IRA. That's the January 2026.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How long would you expect that to last? Just Jack, you.
Supposed to have a lot to answer.
Oh yeah, feel free. So this is Jeff Wilcox from OEO.
So we don't have an official Department of Public Services passing those funds to us to weatherize. We've been working with them for over a year. It's not officially guaranteed yet. We're hoping that will be in our plan is to roll out in January. That will take place of the ARPA funds that are going away. So we'll be at like $22, $3 million a year program for the next 2-3 years.
So 2 to 3 years. Okay, great. Thank you.
And one other thing is that we do our allowable cost per unit, which this year is 16,332. So we are we're being more efficient than what we're allowed to. That's tied to the consumer price index now. So we do see regular ups, a plus every year. So what does our program offer? Electrical efficiency upgrades in partnership with Efficiency Vermont and Burlington Electric in that area. We're doing lighting, but that is becoming as lighting switches to most all LED that's available. That is lessening. We do a lot of appliances, refrigerators, washing machines, those sorts of things. Cold climate heat pumps. We do quite a few, but there's a lot of demand for cold climate heat pumps right now, and subcontractors are very hard to get. We have 2 or 3 right now that we can rely on to do that. And heat pump hot water heaters is another big area that we are doing. Thermal efficiency upgrades is really is what we are very good at. We're good at electrical efficiency upgrades, but we're very good at thermal. We've been doing that for, like I said, for 49 years. And that's basically air sealing, making the house tighter, keeping the heat, the money you spent to heat the air, keeping it in the building. Insulating, primarily through cellulose insulation, but with some fiberglass, limited amount of fiberglass in mobile homes. Heating systems, we upgrade. We make sure that the heating system is running as efficiently as possible, as safely as possible. We do duct work, do distribution work. We seal it up, make sure you're keeping that heated air where it's supposed to be and not released to the outside prematurely. And same thing for the last one, distribution. We do a lot of health and safety. Ventilation to ASHRAE standards. So we look at the tightness limit, the occupancy, size of the home, and all that, and we use ASHRAE standards to come up with how much ventilation, fresh air per minute per hour that home needs. And we use spot ventilation, which means bath fans or kitchen range hoods. And in the bathroom fans, we put a timer on the fan so it runs for a certain amount of time to bring that fresh air in. And I will tell you that when we go for our QCI, we've educated our clients at least twice, sometimes 3 times, depending if the crew has educated as well, the client, and QCI answers it almost every home. What's this fan? Why is it running so long? It's the most hated part of that we do, but once we show them why it's important and what it does, it gets through. And air quality, we're trying to improve the air quality by the air is coming from a known place, not from underneath your mobile home where the mice and raccoons and possums live. And we make sure that smoke and CO detectors are in every home. That's done at the EEC or the coach visit at the beginning, sorry. And then the last thing is robust client education. We do it, as I said, 3 times. We do it when the coaches, the electrical coach is in. We do it when the auditor is in. The crew is doing a lot of education, so 4 times. And then the QCI, quality control. Every job we do is quality control inspected, so they're there. How does it work? I've kind of alluded to this, but we are an income eligibility based program. There is an application which is 8 pages long. And for those of you that know with low income, an 8-page application really, for a lot of our clients, is challenging. But all of our agencies have great people on staff who get our clients through that. And in some cases, actually fill the application out over the phone with them and then have them sign it and move on. Once they become eligible and they've been put on the list, there is a priority list which looks at 7 different areas of the client's life and gives them a priority score. They go onto the list, and that's when they get served. So people ask me all the time, if I sign up, when can I see it? Like 3 months? I said, it depends. It depends on your eligibility. It could be 3 months. It could be 2 years. So we have about 175 applications in-house right now at CPOEO. So that's about 1 year's work. The efficiency coach, as I mentioned, they're primarily on the the electrical side. They're going in and looking at all the appliances. Is it appropriate for a cold climate heat pump? Is it appropriate for a heat pump hot water heater? And they're managing all that work and looking at if there's anything that could keep us from weatherizing the house, like a bad roof, moisture in the basement, mold. Vermiculite insulation is huge. 1 in 10 houses has vermiculite insulation, which is asbestos-containing material that's nasty, and we have to abate it or we have to walk away. An abatement pre-COVID was about $6,000 average. It's now over $20,000 average. So once the coach is done with the electrical side, the energy auditor goes out. They do a full thermal safety inspection and come up with the work scope. Then our retrofit, we do some with subcontractors, and we do primarily with in-house crews. They go in and do the work. My average is 119 crew hours per job. So we're in the house 3 to 5 days. We're also doing the health and safety work at that time. And then the quality control inspector. 100% of our homes are inspected by a quality control inspector. And then to make sure that the work's done to standard, to the tech manual, and is workmanlike, and we guarantee it for 1 year. And the end product is safer, warmer, healthier, and more efficient homes. We want to be there one time, get it done, and be there one time, but we are allowed to go back every 15 years. And that's to cover technological advances and such. So what does 49 years of doing this get us? And I think this first one is the most important that you just look at, is that with being where we're grounded in the community action agencies, whose priority is to work with Vermonters with low income, we have a very deep understanding and success with working with Vermonters with low income. I don't think anybody else has that level of expertise. We've earned it, we've gained it, and we are very good at it. I am not very good at it. I only pretty much deal with the clients that rise to the surface as far as challenges. But my crew, I hear the stories every day about what they're dealing with, and it's amazing. That's across the state. Our weatherization network is often an entry point for Vermonters to improve their lives by connecting with CAP agencies and learning about the resources available to them. Many of our senior citizens have never asked for help before, and that this is the first time that they are accessing services. And most have never heard of fuel assistance. Most have never heard of the utilities that have low income rates. We're educating them on that, getting them hooked up and with those rates and making them aware. We have experience in braiding 3 to 8 sources of funding into a comprehensive, complete weatherization job. There's not one job that has fewer than 3 different funding sources, and some of them are the full 8. All of the grants are rated with HVAP funds to get to that higher allowable cost per unit. So that's my finance. Every time we come up with a new funding source, my finance, Samantha West, just about shoots me. If I go missing, that's the first place to start, especially if it's after a new funding source came out. Flexibility to work with multiple sources, Fed, private, Vermont, private, funding with various income and income eligibility. We have 4 different funds, main funds right now. 2 of them have one income eligibility level, 2 of them have another. So we have to figure out which one we're going to do. I was 3 jobs this morning, and I completed 3. I out-processed 3 to give to Sam this morning, and all 3 of them had a different funding source. So 49 years of highly successful implementation of the program. I use the 30%. That's our average. So across all housing, multifamily, on-site built, manufactured houses, mobile homes, even some things that were not meant for permanent residents that are now our folks are living permanently, tiny homes and camper trailers are, so. And the biggest thing is it's many years of working with multiple partners, EEUs, distribution utilities across the board. We're all collaborating together to do the best that we can for our clients and get them out of, help them to a better life through our program. We work very well together, and it's a good thing. We all have our expertise. What do we need to succeed? Consistent funding allows us to complete both our anti-poverty mission and reduce our clients' carbon footprint. Funding to help with reducing deferral type home repairs. I mentioned this before, vermiculite is the #1, but we also replace a lot of roofs. There's no sense in putting cellulose attic and insulation if it's going to get rained on and ruin the very next rainstorm. Knob and tube removal. Once you remove the vermiculite, we find a lot of knob and tube. It's still the most ancient of wiring system, the most hazardous, and it's still prevalent in a lot of our homes. Bulk moisture remediation, there's a lot of mold and moisture going on. And structural issues. There's a lot of them that are homes that their maintenance has been deferred and they're ready to crash down around the ears of the residents, and we help to make that better.
I have a question. What funding bucket or what monies are used for those base home repairs?
Currently, we have ARPA funds that are called VHR, Housing Repair Funds. As you heard, that is going away. We're a little bit concerned about where that's going to come from. I haven't, as you heard me speak about my agreement with Vermont Gas, they have given us some funding to do that, but it is not close to what the ARPA funds were.
So is that an area where you all are looking for more funding?
Yes.
Sorry, Wendy with Dino in the Northeast Phoenix. We also get USDA funds, which previously we'd asked for $250, and they said, "Are you sure you can't take $300?" And this year we asked for $150, and we got $72. So that there are some other sources, but those are also being stretched pretty thin.
Efficiency Vermont also has a program that we have ARPA. CDO has a lot of ARPA funds, so we haven't dipped into it, but the other 4 caps are dipping into working with EVT through some of their home repair funds as well. Funding to bring best current technology to our clients. Full climate heat pumps that actually work in a mobile home. If you know, mobile homes are very compartmentalized. So we're looking at a system. There may or may not be a pilot coming out that we're going to work on that. And to use the current distribution system in a heat pump technology. It's going to be, we are also looking at split heat, water heating, cold climate water heating as well. Solar technology. We don't use solar technology with our clients, but there's technology out there that would allow us, but we don't have the funding. But continued strong partnerships with the efficiency utilities and to just continue the relationships that we currently have to take care of our low-income Vermonters with low income as much as we can at our current levels. Currently, we do it, I think, very well. and we want to continue that in the future. And that is the end of my presentation.
I had a question about the 15-year kind of revisiting. Is that per property or per resident?
It's per address.
Okay.
Yes. And surprisingly, we get not a lot, but a few each year that apply for weatherization, and we say, oh, we were there 10 years ago. You have to wait 5 years. It used to be that there was a specific number, a date put out. A couple of years ago, they made it into a 15-year rolling, which is very helpful.
So speaking about your strong partnerships with the EEUs and DUs, I know you refer clients to some of the low-income programs that the DUs offer. Can you speak to the collaboration when it comes to the RES Tier 3 measures?
I don't do Tier 3.
Okay, maybe the DUs can speak to how they interact with your programs.
One thing I did forget to mention is that every coaching visit for the efficiency coach, they do what's called a one-touch referral with the client, and they go through an interview process, and they learn about the other things that the client may be having. They may, are they short on food? Do they want to quit smoking cigarettes? Do they have a fear of, falling in their home? Things like that. And I don't know, I can't remember how many other folks are on there, but then when the coach gets back, whatever they've talked about, the person wants a referral, they go into the one-touch computer system and refer that client out to that area agency on aging, age well, that sort of thing. So.
Is there still funding for the coaching?
Yes. Yeah.
Like that's a pretty important role. Oh, sorry. Just asking about the funding for energy coaches and if that's an important way that everybody collaborates or if that's mostly just a CAPS role.
It's a very important part of because you heard me talk about that we educate multiple ways and through every step we're educating. We are giving out so much information, and there's so much that we're talking about building science-wise, electrical use, client behavior that they can use to change all of these things, that there's no way that our clients can uptake all of that information. I get confused, and I'm supposed to be directing all these programs. But so the editing coach is very important that they get an initial shot of education that they can start right now doing. And it also sets the tone for the rest of the process with us. They're told the clients are informed how it's going to go, what they can expect, what we need from them, how to make the process go quicker, easier, all of that. So the coaching is very important. And that is that's in our home weatherization, that's in our state funded portion of our budget.
I just had one kind of summary question. You heard why we're here, and the interest is in kind of potentially making improvements to the institutions and programs that we oversee. And I think it would be helpful to know from your perspective whether you'd like to see some changes with some of your partners. In a positive, making a positive reference to things that we can do better.
I do just want to interject for 1 second. I think it's a very valid question. Mm-hmm. This isn't your one and only opportunity. This is a long process.
Not my one and only. I personally love working with my partners. We continue to collaborate and change the programs for the better. And Efficiency Vermont, Tim Perrin and I at Vermont Gas have been going through a 2.5-year process to get a really good way forward. The group listens to each other. We talk often. Efficiency Vermont we meet once a month as weatherization directors. They are now part of our meeting, even though it's a separate funding from what we're talking about. Chris Burns, EED, we talk a lot. It's all about how do we produce the best product. My answer would be more funds, and funds that are easy to use, and funds for home repair, because that's, I think, going forward, home repair funds and being able to I hate to defer a claim. Absolutely hate it. If we don't have the funds to fix home repairs, we can't do it. So they're all pitching in. Everybody's pitching in to help us with that. From my perspective, it's a very complicated program. Like I said, we grade 3 to 8 funding sources per job, which is very challenging. If we could figure out that and make it easier so that I'm not fearing for my life come the 30th of every month. But I say that in jest, she's wonderful. But it's very challenging, that perspective.
So you did already touch on some of your partnerships and collaboration with the efficiency utilities. I guess any further detail you can provide, because you're in the weeds, you work with these programs all the time, and we read a title of a program and sometimes it kind of goes over our head what it actually means. So like any further explanation on the low income electrical efficiency program and how that works and the targeted high use program.
One is an add-on. We call the LEAP is an add-on, which we automatically add on to the weatherization program. And the targeted high use is a referral directly from Efficiency Vermont that comes to us from somebody that has applied for that program through them. The client comes to us, they're already income eligibility based. I mean, they're already they're aware that they're eligible. And we go out and do basically the same program, just we don't have the weatherization part at the end, unless we convince the client that they should apply for weatherization, and we do that.
So that one, EVT is at the touch point with the client, and they recognize that they're eligible for your program.
For the add-on, we are the touch point. We are the ones that are bringing the program to them. The targeted high use program, they're calling EVT's customer helpline, or somehow they're getting in touch with EVT, and they are the initiator of it.
That's great.
Sorry, I need to be on it. Just to point out, the 3 to 8 funding sources per job, that's sort of the like a sleepover. Our clients do not. It's seamless for them. Every once in a while, they have to sign an extra paper, but we're doing all of the work behind the scenes, and the client is just receiving the services. We had someone the other day who said, well, you're not going to come weatherize, right, because you already gave me a fridge. Like, no, it's not one or the other, it's both, right? So EBT did the fridge, that was amazing, that was awesome, now just wait, there's more, right? And the vermiculite funding, as you stated, sometimes that's going to be through the ARPA, through the federal, a little bit of state, a little bit of USDA, and maybe EBT, thankfully they came through and pinched for us as well. But it all comes together, but nothing extra for the client. Maybe they have to wait another week for us to sort it all out, but it's the expertise regionally and how to deal with our regional partners in each of our areas. And we figure it out for the client. They're in the receiving end, and we do the work. And I just think that's important. So the more we develop those working relationships with EBT by talking to them more, by making sure we're aware of all the programs that they have, it's the more we can offer to the client. It's not more work for them to have to then go.
Forgot to mention that that this is totally, if they're income eligibility based, it's totally free, nothing to the homeowner or renter. And that's the other thing I forgot to mention, was that this is for homeowners and for renters. We do partner with property owners. There is some cost for the property owners, but again, there is no cost to the residents, homeowners, or renters. So.
Great. Really appreciate you folks coming today and presenting. Our utilities have to be nice to us, and I know this was entirely voluntary on your part. So appreciate you showing up, and appreciate you. I invite you to continue to participate in this, pay attention. Hoping that Jeff Wilcox back there is also, I know he's reached out as well, and would love for your continued participation in this and recognize you're trying to do a lot with very little.
We're the best kept secret in the state of Vermont, and we're also the nicest people.
Thank you very much.
Let's see. So we go to the next slide. Oh, like our slide. Okay. So I guess we're going to hear from the energy efficiency utilities next. Efficiency Vermont, would you like to That's it. Thank you.
We'll start clicking on buttons until you're ready.
Yeah, it should be good to go, just the arrows.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Peter Walk. I'm the Managing Director of Efficiency Vermont. It's a pleasure to be here with the Commission today. I think this is an incredibly important topic you are investigating and one that we all share an interest in making as effective for as possible. I loved what Dwight said about and what his partner said about the overall approach to helping Vermonters that makes it seamless for them in the process. We take the same approach. We try to ensure that strong baseline of statewide technical and financial support, starting with the customer needs and addressing the barriers that they face, so we can bring key technology to scale in the market for them and for all Vermonters as they participate. Quickly, we're going to talk a little bit about our sort of regulatory background in the thermal space, and then our work both in the residential and the commercial and industrial space, because as you'll see, commercial and industrial space provides a lot of opportunity in Vermont and a significant amount of the savings associated with the work. Well, we didn't need that slide anyways. The thermal programs create significant opportunities to meet customers where they are and comprehensively address absolute energy use. That's part of the order of appointment that you've given us, is to both approach electric efficiency and thermal efficiency, trying to address both at once, because to the customer, it does not matter. They are thinking about their energy costs primarily, and it does not matter whether it's an electric cost or a thermal cost. And so you have very clearly spelled out an order of appointment and the other EEU order of appointment to be able to do that work and to get to work to help Vermonters. One of the benefits of being a third-party statewide administrator is pretty clearly spelled out in the order of appointment. You've directed us to work to transform the market, which is in maybe not fancy way, but is a way of saying build the infrastructure, build the system by which all Vermonters can benefit from that process. Make sure that key technology is available at distributors, make sure that the workforce is trained, make sure that contractors are trained in building science to be able to perform that work for Vermonters across the board. We do that by really understanding customer needs and their barriers. What stands in the way of projects happening? Dwight mentioned the home repair program. That's a great example of getting to the real problem. And we were excited to partner with OEO to fund both EVT-led weatherization projects and WAP-led weatherization projects, and would plan to look at that again in the next DRP, because it's been an incredibly effective program at moving those projects forward that otherwise would not happen. We try to integrate and comprehensively address total or absolute energy needs. We really think about who's delivering that work, the manufacturers of the equipment, the distributors, the FW Webs and Granite Groups of the world, down to the contractors in people's homes, and making sure that we have the workforce in place, which we all know to be a challenge. Right? Dwight mentioned the challenge of maintaining that weatherization workforce. It is significant, and it's across the board as we go forward. But right now we maintain an energy efficiency network, or energy excellence network of about 600 members, which by rough count, the total efficiency workforce in Vermont is about 10,000. So we're all working together to do our part to keep that workforce strong. And then we work all together across the board to bring the technical assistance and funding to bear to help projects move forward. So I often think that most people know about Efficiency Vermont from the rebates and incentives that are available. That is the last step in that market transformation process. If we haven't already worked with all the folks in this room and many more to understand what customer needs are, to identify what programs are out there, to work with that supply chain to make sure that there are energy auditors available, that there are high efficiency heat pumps available. If we haven't promoted the ideas and the opportunities to Vermonters,
helped them with individual project support. None of those incentives matter. They won't be ready. They won't pursue those projects. And so we need to make sure that it's a full and complete system along the way. I want a little snapshot of this is EDT thermal funding by solely by regulated sources. In recent years, we've had significant third-party sources, federal funding through ARPA and other things, which I'll talk about a little bit, which have funded not just weatherization work, but also heat pump hot water heater systems, electric panel upgrades, which we worked on in partnership with the other EEUs and GMP, as well as flood recovery dollars, an example of which I'll talk about in a moment. But as you can see, overall regulated TEPF dollars is about $10.7 million. Of that, 76% goes to residential programming. I want to highlight the discrepancy in resource acquisition costs between residential and commercial industrial, because it is a major factor in how we should all be thinking about this work. Average resource acquisition costs is $115 per MMBTU in the residential side and only 36 on the commercial industrial side. Much of that is driven by the cost of weatherization. As you heard from Dwight, has only gone up in recent years. It is an important part of the mix, and it also is a very costly one. That resource acquisition cost discrepancy has an impact on savings. As you can see, commercial industrial only accounts for 24% of spending and 50% of the savings that we can verify under thermal spending. I want to talk a little bit now about both the residential and the commercial industrial markets and the work that we do in partnership to be able to achieve the results that the state has seen so far. Again, we take a comprehensive approach that centers the customer in that so that it is as streamlined and easy for them to move forward with projects as possible. And we want to think about that from a absolute or total energy burden nature. How do we help folks? Who are they working with already? As you've heard from Dwight, and we'll hear a little bit more, we fund many of the programs at the WAPs or at the community action agencies because that's the best touch point, right? We want to make sure that the efficiency work is happening when they're already engaged with people that they trust. We partner with organizations across the board to deliver supplementary and complementary programs to those that we offer, including the DUs and the other EEUs. We help to build that workforce through training and the maintenance of the EN. We do statewide marketing and promotion that helps bring more people into that sort of broad funnel of project start. We work to provide technical support, and then ultimately, once that's all in place, then the funding has the impact that you want it to have. Then people are ready to take on projects. And even then there are challenges, which I'll talk about in a moment. The partnership with the WAPs, although we're a relative newcomer, only being around 25 years to the WAPs 49, that partnership is incredible. If you think about what it would be like for a customer to go through a weatherization project with a WAP and not get the electric coaching, not get the access to more efficient equipment, et cetera, along at the same time, that would be a waste of an opportunity. And so we're very happy with that partnership through programs like the Target High Use and LEAP to be able to bring that funding directly through the WAPs to bear with customers. It's incredibly effective. We've worked for years additionally with what's known as the 6th WAP, 3 Thermal, which does the multi-unit folks, to do a major part of our low-income weatherization spending, which you'll see in a moment. And we work to help the WAP staff with technical assistance on specific projects, tools, and training, as well as things like co-developing the View Training Center in partnership with OEO and the WAPs. If you haven't been to it yet, it's an incredible facility. It looks like a normal house on a normal street in Barrie, and yet has the ability to bring significant new weatherization techs through that process because they're seeing it in real time in a real space that looks like and has many of the problems that Vermont homes have. And as I mentioned, we are seriously considering whether additional home repair dollars could be brought to bear. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Within the next ERP cycle, it has been fundamentally vital. When the home repair dollars were launched, at least on the Efficiency Vermont side, all of those were booked within 3 to 4 months of the launch of the program. That's 150 projects, 3 more months. Folks who stood up and said, I would like to receive funding. And then we sort of penciled them in so that there was funding available to it because there's a limited pot out of one of our ARPA sources. When I talk about the funnel and bringing people in, that statewide marketing approach, which talks about everybody's program, doesn't talk about, we don't anchor on the things that we fund. We anchor on all of the options available to customers to get people through the door. I'm personally a huge fan of the button-up campaign, which we'll be launching with the governor here in a few weeks. Well, it's technically launched, but we'll be talking about more with the governor in a few weeks. Every Wednesday, it's Weatherization Wednesday, there's great opportunities to come sit in a webinar that have to do with way more than weatherization because people care, they have questions about whether it be a heat pump or when to, like different components of it and when to start. So highly encourage you. There are links, all the links to the old ones are on there and the new ones are coming up. That funnel creates an opportunity for everybody to serve Vermonters better. And we think of ourselves in a customer service approach as being a one-stop shop. As the statewide energy efficiency utility, I don't care whether our program ultimately funds a project. I want the customer to be successful. So we do all of these things to help go from idea or interest down to an actual project completion. And that includes referral to the WAPs if folks are eligible for their weatherization programs or other programs, as well as coordination with DUs and other partners to make sure folks are getting as much of what they're eligible for as possible. It's critical and important, and I think a key benefit to having at least one statewide entity thinking about that more broadly. I can't say I've got 49 years of experience. Well, I can't either, but the EEUs have been doing this since 2009 when the legislature directed RGGI funding towards the TEPF and ultimately thermal programming. That program has been incredibly successful at delivering results, and you'll see the sort of units weatherized here in a moment. But at the time, the building industry wasn't ready for a regulated weatherization program. So we all know getting verified savings from specific projects is, you need to set up infrastructure, be able to measure it, you need to be able to ensure that we're getting the results that ratepayers are paying for. And so we worked with partners to stand up things like training weatherization techs, training energy auditors, because outside of the weatherization agencies, it didn't really exist as a way to deliver the services that folks needed. Thinking about having equipment so folks could scale to the new funding. There was a period of time, we talk a lot about ARPA now, but it used to be ARA. And there was a big push to expand weatherization then, and then a lack of funding that followed. And many of the weatherization contractors are still frustrated that the state didn't step up into that role in a way that would enable them to continue the business model that they had built at our collective urging. From 2009 to 2019, baseline funding was about $2 million per year. Beginning in 2019, Efficiency Vermont proposed through the PUC process to include moderate income additional incentives, because as we know, while low income is the focus, moderate income folks often are not eligible for benefits across the board, and so their ability to pay is very similar to low income Vermonters. So you see significant work in that green bar of the lighter green bar of moderate income starting in 2019. In 2022, the governor proposed and the legislature agreed to fund additional weatherization work through ARPA dollars, dollars for both the WAPs, as you heard from Dwight, and for Efficiency Vermont to expand our both low and moderate income programs. In 2023, we began offering low income incentives as well. We still refer folks to the WAPs, but if they want to work with our programs, we make that available as well. The blue bar on the top that has been critical throughout is that partner with 3 thermal doing multifamily units. So many of our low income populations are renters. And so we now look at a situation where we're about evenly, we're doing about 75% low and moderate income, or almost 50% low income of our overall weatherization work, really trying to get to those who need it most.
Peter, how much overlap is there between these numbers with the WAPs? That is, the various colors. Can you kind of give me?
I don't believe there is any overlap with them.
Okay, thanks.
Because the 3 thermal funding is treated somewhat separately. I would maybe ask Jeff to confirm that, but I believe that's the case, that those are separately funded pieces. We add additional dollars on top of what the state might already be investing to be able to achieve that work. As we could have a whole section on, I know you're going to hear from Kathy Beyer later, on low income renters and other populations. It's a challenge to meet. That split incentive folks talk about is real. It is hard to break that barrier. And we had some success in the flood related funding that I'm happy to share some examples of as we go forward, but I don't want to take up too much time. Additionally, the number one barrier everybody tells us about is funding. How do we pay for you saw the job cost average from the WEPs, we're seeing similar numbers. It's getting more and more expensive. How do we pay for it? We have worked through partnership, again, to try to bring resources to bear. The first was the home energy loan, which is partnership with local lending institutions, currently Eastrise and Cornerstone, to bring low or no cost financing to bear for efficiency projects, often used for weatherization primarily. That still leaves people with a loan that they can't afford. The legislature passed several years ago a pilot that VHFA administers and VGS and EVT worked on together that looks at how to use a utility bill to pay back a weatherization service. It's been done elsewhere in many cases, but that's usually where there's a metered fuel heating source that is easier to attach that to. The distribution utilities here in many instances are that utility partner that is providing that. It gives an opportunity for the benefit to stay with the beneficiaries, right? So if you buy a home and you do a huge weatherization project and for whatever reason need to sell your house and move, you're not benefiting from that. So you're now paying a loan on something, potentially that you're not benefiting from. This keeps it with the utility account, and therefore the payment is going back to similar to rental programs for hot water heaters and other things that utilities have run in the past. The new program that I'm excited about is going to launch statewide in November. We started it during the flood. So sitting in this room when we asked the legislature to move some of the ARPA weatherization money to flood support, the idea of pre-funding as many of the projects as we could. Think of it as like an instant discount so that we can fund up to 90% out of an existing pot of money that gets repaid by the incentive. And then the individual or the customer only has to take out 10% of their original loan value, which is much more appealing and much less risky for everybody involved. The customer, the lending institutions, everybody on board. So that's something that it started with a test case with the Vermont Community Foundation during the flood, depositing money into a bank account in Eastrise. We would draw on that to pay contractors for the projects that folks needed to have to do flood repair, and then we'd repay that from the incentive. And at the same time, the Community Foundation was still earning interest on what was left. It was a great partnership. We are now doing that. We're going to continue that without the partnership of Community Foundation, but it was a huge step to addressing the needs of as we think about the flood victims and low-income Vermonters, the Venn diagram essentially being concentric circles is a great opportunity to move some of those things forward. I think everybody here in this room has probably talked about the holy grail of moving from weatherization into fuel switching, especially for low-income Vermonters. I want to talk a little bit about the opportunities that we've seen for that over the years. Before 2016, the targeted high use program that Dwight mentioned could support the WAPs doing weatherization and then installing heat pumps. The technology at that point wasn't where it is now. And so it was relatively rare. Since the passage of the RES and Tier 3, we have been able to continue to do that, but solely for baseboard heating to heat pump conversions through that program. And then with the onset of the Energy Efficiency Modernization Act program, the pilot that has been going on for the last 2 DRP cycles, we were, in partnership with the DUs, able to offer a program whereby the weatherization agencies sent us a list of recently weatherized folks. We would reach out and say, would you like to have a heat pump installed in your home, including panel upgrades and other repairs as need be? So met that perfect mode of, we don't want to install heat pumps in a home that's not ready for it, right? But it's incredibly complicated. It mixed in Tier 3 and their low income savings requirements, other things, and it was different in each of the distribution utility territories at times. It is something that is needed and a great way to continue that sort of single point of contact or as few points of contact for a customer as possible, but is one that has had significant cost and time associated with administering the program. And then as we were going through the regulatory process, the beginning of the last DRP cycle, there was a sort of pause in the program as we worked to resolve some of the issues around what the goals were going to be in the sort of second iteration of EMA. So it's something that we see great need for, that sort of working from that weatherization to fuel switching, but it is very challenging in the current environment. I want to make mention in other work that you have going on. The department has recently completed a draft cold climate heat pump savings evaluation, and we know from that work that there is significant work that we all collectively need to do to drive more thermal savings for Vermonters that the technology can deliver, but not currently being done. That is both true and also a recognition of where we are in the market transformation process. We think of the sort of technology adoption curve, we're still very early in that process. But if we think back to where we were in 2015, when the technology wasn't really available, when nobody knew how to install them, but we didn't really know how to design and plan for them, we've come a long way in 10 years. So with 78,000 heat pumps installed statewide, that's good progress, right? We have good things to build from. We can continue to work and tailor those programs. I'm very proud of the joint programs that we administer for heat pumps with the DUs. In that program, we work to develop, Efficiency Vermont works to develop the supply chain network, make sure that that technology is available first and foremost, makes it seamless for the customer, right? It comes off the bill at the distributor level. And so nobody's having to apply for a rebate. It just happens very seamlessly. We work with contractors to make sure that they're trained and know on the latest technology. We work with the manufacturers as they're coming up with the next latest thing, because it's really early in that process in the grand scheme of things to have a Vermont winter capable cold climate heat pump. And then we work with the distribution utilities to share those costs, share the incentive costs, share the program admin costs as we move forward. We also recognized that there were opportunities to improve. So last fall, in coordination with the distribution utilities and working closely with the Department of Public Service, we launched into a market assessment and action planning process around heat pumps, right? How do we drive the measures that we want to see? There was some indication already that the thermal savings weren't what they were. We've been hearing from partners in other states that there were opportunities to do that. And so we launched that collectively, trying to do best for Vermonters by working together to be able to drive significant change. And so as we think ahead to 2026 and the 27 through 29 DRP period, we're really looking at 2026 as a bridge year, sustaining what we have built and what works with DU partners involved, and then thinking about what the 27 and beyond looks like as we think about trying to help folks be able to offset more of their thermal load through the use of heat pumps. And I think of that as primarily sort of this whole home model of looking at more than 50% of the overall heating load. That is the kind of the sweet spot at really seeing the energy savings that we anticipated from heat pumps, and that we all know it's capable of delivering and want to see. This is a great example of this community you have in front of you standing up together without direction and doing the work of trying to figure out what's next. And that's a huge part of the market transformation process. Because if we just wanted to put dollars out in the ether and get what limited short-term savings we could continue to do that. But it doesn't, because we don't actually claim, we claim primarily the electric savings, right? It's a market opportunity. The heat pumps we are supporting are more efficient than the other ones that could be purchased. We do backfill with TPF dollars the DUs who don't participate in the statewide programs so that customers don't miss out on the opportunity to participate in a statewide program. But we see this as part of the whole system and want to see it be successful.
So going back maybe 3 slides to the one before that. Yeah. It felt like you were identifying maybe a challenge or an issue in this area, or maybe that's been overcome.
There's definitely, it's part of that, like, I know one of the things that you have for future potential workshops is the sort of overlapping jurisdiction and
stacking of incentives. So are you getting to the stacking of incentives here and how sometimes that is challenging?
It's more of, it's both stacking of incentives and the sort of regulatory back office work behind the scenes to make sure that we are.
I think that's what we're trying to get at. Or one of the things we're trying to get at. In this
one of the challenges with having a very successful heat pump program is that the tier 3 requirements for the DUs are set at certain levels. And if you look at just the heat pump programs alone, they would more than meet those requirements. So there are many bank savings from the tier 3 programs. Additionally, you have focus of late on especially on the low income requirements. And this is one of the ways that we can achieve those. But those are different for different DUs in terms of what they need, because they have different programs within there. And so it's a complicated system to manage. And so there are opportunities as we look forward to thinking about how you want those services to be delivered into the future. And it's not a perfect answer. There really isn't a perfect answer. It's just an area of where it is challenging to manage the regulatory overlap, and we do the best we can to make it seamless for the customers.
Can I ask a question about challenging to manage regulatory overlap? But earlier, when you were talking about providing funding to the WAPs in particular, is that in some ways easier? Because, and Dwight and Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not claiming savings, for your federally funded programs, correct? So in other words, if you're getting money from Efficiency Vermont, you can say, EBT, you can claim any savings in carbon reduction, fossil fuel reductions. Am I getting that right?
Yes, we don't, not that I'm aware of, OEO may be doing it, but we're not. All of our work is based on cost effectiveness of the measure, to save energy, to save dollars, not.
Yeah. And that gets to your point of you've been doing carbon reductions, but your primary mission is
poverty.
Thank you. So is that part of, and I'm curious how that fits in terms of if there's a challenge, or I understand there's a challenge with sort of regulatory overlap, is that in part because the DUs need to achieve certain savings?
I don't actually think it's the same, because we run the joint program, like the broader midstream incentive without challenge. I think the issue is different needs in different territories make running a consistent program somewhat more challenging. I think there's a lot of work that goes into the sort of back office, making sure that folks are signed and that we're not overstepping the needs of the DUs, and because they don't want to spend ratepayer. I mean, I'm not going to speak for them, but like if I were them, I wouldn't want to overspend ratepayer dollars if I didn't need to, right, to meet the requirements. And so if they've reached the limit in their area, but we still have a wait list of people who want to do it, do we shift then to folks in other territories, or how do we manage that process? And so I think, it's less about the claiming of credit and more about the sort of different, the different facets of that credit and the way it gets put on the ground.
So the incentives being different across all the utilities, does that make sense?
So this is a free of charge program to people who take part. So it is no cost to the customer. So it's not as you see, those are sort of on the lines there is what the costs that the EBT is paid through the energy efficiency charge through the EMA pilot versus what the DU contribution has been. And what we've really discovered, and the ARPA electric panel upgrade money has helped with this, but I think 38% of the homes that we've done through this program needed panel upgrades to be able to have a heat pump installed, which is a great long-term benefit in that future-proofing piece. But we didn't anticipate quite that number when we started this process. So project costs have been, technology, the labor, everything, as Dwight's mentioned, just more expensive than it was. But it's a great benefit to folks who want to make these transitions and have both heating and cooling in their homes in a nicely weatherized tight cell, other than the fans that Dwight mentioned. All right, let me go back to, okay. I want to talk quickly about the commercial industrial market because, as I said, it's 50% of the overall thermal savings. In much of Mr. Chair, you mentioned the Clean Heat Standard proceeding, and much of at least the sort of run up to that discussion was really about the residential side. But there is significant opportunity for driving economic development through lower cost energy for Vermont businesses. And that is a huge part of the work that we do, and something that it kind of often goes sort of under the radar as we talk about the thermal work that gets done. So I just want to flag it just because it's helpful. Very similarly with the residential market, we take that market transformation approach. We think about the partners that need to be involved, what things can be brought to bear. Is there an opportunity to, say, work with a distribution utility partner where Efficiency Vermont can support sort of FLM enablement that can then be managed by a distribution utility? We work, again, on the supply chain side as we get into really more intricate efficiency projects. The vendor pool, the contractors that are being used are very, very technically sound, and it's harder to find, right? When we get into building controls and variable speed motors and those aren't as easy for your average contractor to be able to install. So there's significant expertise training those folks, making sure they're available to. We work very closely with not only our largest customers, but small and medium-sized businesses as well. And then ultimately getting to that technical assistance and project support that can lead to the funding of a project to make it happen and make it happen sooner. I think that's a key piece that we often don't talk about. when efficiency work happens matters. It matters that it happens earlier in somebody's, so we're often fighting against you think about like the capital improvement life cycle of our own homes, right? We have finite resources. We want to make improvements here or there. One of us might want to do X, one of us want to do Y. The like fixing the roof or doing the weatherization is kind of low on the like, ooh, that's really going to add value to my home mindset. But we help bring that up the list so that folks who aren't working with us on a day-to-day basis can see that value and see that return on investment. And that's important because Vermont gets savings year after year from that process. For the last decade, there have been significant number of projects. I know these numbers are small, but the demand for thermal projects is growing. A lot of that is driven by community and corporate sustainability goals. We have a lot of folks who are interested in more value-based decisions that accompany the business bottom line or that accompany what a community is trying to do for their students or community resources. Recently, every year we hold what's called the Best Practices Exchange. It's a meeting of some of the largest business customers in Vermont. We bring in partners from the DUs and all the EEUs to come in and talk about what folks are doing and what other businesses can learn from. It's a great opportunity for folks to like pick up on a project somebody else has done, bring it into your space and run with it. And one of the most interesting projects we heard was about a combined electric and thermal project that Vermont Castings, the folks who make the wonderful wood stoves, who now have corporate owners who have sustainability goals, which tie in nicely to biomass heat, that are about energy use, waste reduction, et cetera. We heard from them in partnership with GMP and Efficiency Vermont about work that they did to both reduce their energy expenses and get to the next steps in terms of efficiency projects overall. So through what we call an energy Kaizen process, which is if you know Lean Six Sigma and that sort of thing, it's a continuous improvement word for getting folks together and identifying opportunities to do better and cost less. That process led EVT energy experts to evaluate some of the AMI data from the two facilities that the company operates here in Vermont and identified an opportunity to move to a curtailable load rider with operational changes only. So GMP was able to bring them into that, which you can see the savings 46% in one facility and 26% in another. That's massive economic development activity for the state of Vermont. And that's one opportunity within there. So we do that. We identify then projects from there that can be done for technology purposes, but also look at those sort of low-hanging fruit of use and conservation and other things that can be brought to bear. So that's one of the tools that Efficiency Vermont brings to commercial industrial operation. And it's something that generally is very positive because it makes the people who work in the facility the owners of that process. Right? We're not coming in as outside experts and saying, you should do this. They're saying, oh, we have the opportunity to start our furnace an hour later. Rather than having the people start it when they show up on shift, we don't need it until 4 hours later. Let's start it 2 hours later. That'll save us X. And owning that as a continuous improvement process has been incredibly valuable. I did want to, as we talked a little bit about the overlap incentives, I did want to mention that it is potentially very stark in commercial and industrial operations because of the size of the incentives. And I want to use one example to talk about that. And before I get to the example, there is nothing that anybody has done wrong in this example. There's the Efficiency Vermont hasn't done anything wrong. The distribution utility involved company didn't do anything wrong. It just, the way in which the overlap happens means that the cost to do the same project was higher than it needed to be. A commercial industrial customer we work with regularly worked with us to develop a project for a major thermal efficiency project that would add significant, would displace significant diesel fuel load without adding new electric load. We developed an incentive package for them, which they liked and were ready to move forward with. And rightfully so, they approached their DU at that point and to see if there was any more resources that could be brought to bear. The DU, recognizing that there were tier 3 savings opportunity, rightfully pursued that as a way to drive. So we ended up, Efficiency Vermont claimed the electric savings, and as we often do on the CNI side, we split the thermal costs, we split the incentive size. In the end, that ended up with a 44% higher overall incentive with no incremental change in the project. And there's no fault, it creates opportunities for ineffective use of ratepayer dollars for projects.
Do you have any insight on whether the initial or the single incentive would have been enough to trigger the project?
We thought we had, we had an incentive agreement drafted and they were getting ready to sign it. So to go,
Peter, I mean, it just begs the question of how could it have been done differently to just kind of limit the ratepayer dollars flowing, what seems like a more efficient fashion. Is there anything that comes to mind as a way of?
There are a number of ways you could address the sort of overlapping responsibility. For the sake of the camaraderie in this room, I'm not going to add too many to those, but I think the fact of the matter is when there are opportunities for the DUs and the EEUs who are sort of regulated monopolies in themselves to be competed, to have customers have us compete against ourselves. We end up paying, as ratepayers end up paying more for that process. And so I would think about how to create some division of labor that more effectively, because frankly, I don't necessarily care as much about the incentive process as it's not driving the incremental projects that we need to achieve Vermont's energy and climate goals, right? We're spending more on the same thing when we should be spending that money on other things. Ultimately, to go back to sort of the beginning of where we started, we try to provide equitable access that bridges service territories. And that's not just DUs, that's the weatherization agencies, that's RPCs and RDCs who we work very closely with. It's trying to make sure that there is, while there can be an opportunity for territory-specific programming, that there is some level of baseline statewide, both technical and financial support. It all comes down to the customer and making it easy and simple for them, right? We want to drive the efficiencies within the process and the sort of do the back-end work to coordinate so that customers come in one door, they get the services they need, and they feel very happy about it. That's all that matters. And then ultimately making sure that kind of game-changing technology is available to folks. In delivering those services, we work with a range of partners. This is a small list of those partners. Having you had us focus on that market transformation work means that we're thinking about the system, the infrastructure as a whole. And so that everybody, whether they know it or not, gets to benefit from the fact that there are trained contractors in place, that there are the access to the equipment available, so that nobody has to pay to recreate that wheel again. And that's the value of putting the market transformation work within the EEUs or appointment that is really, really valuable. With that, I just want to leave you with one thing. Dwight mentioned it, but, and this is not on you per se, but the reality of the situation is there is insufficient funding in the system overall to be able to meet the needs. And as we think about how to divide up scarce resources, we are missing some of that sort of abundance conversation that says, if we want to do more, we should be willing to spend that money. And so while fixing what we have now so that we can grow from there is very important. The fact of the matter is that everybody knows this, that the thermal funding is inadequate to meet the state's energy and climate goals as laid out in the Comprehensive Energy Plan or the Global Warming Solutions Act or Climate Action Plan. And I would be remiss to not say that to you. With that, I'm happy to answer further questions, or I've been talking for way too long.
Thank you. I would suggest we take a 10-minute break.
45.
And we'll start up. I think I'd suggest Burlington next as both the EEU and EU, and then EGS as well.